there's another report, right, about how government has used the IT Act to pull down a hate speech tracker. So we could probably look at that.
Yeah, actually, because see, every time the law is being used to take down trackers and not real hate speech, though the Supreme Court has said that many times.
Yeah.
But I think we should focus on hate speech by the media.
ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಮತಾಂತರ ದಂಧೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಅವ್ಯಾಹತವಾಗಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದರ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಕ್ಲೂಸಿವ್ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ.
विकसित राष्ट्र या इस्लामिक राष्ट्र
There's actually so much of hate speech in the media, as these clippings show you. That's when I thought about why not a show on Hate Speech Beda, or the campaign against hate speech. This is a group which was started in April 2020 in Bengaluru, and they have been using the law effectively, or the rules effectively, to ensure that media does not get away scot-free. These are some of the orders that Hate Speech Beda managed to secure. So in this week's No Filter, I will take you to meet this group. Of course, at the News Minute 2, we do track hate speech quite a bit. So become a subscriber and help us fight the fight on your behalf. Okay, so we are here to meet Manvi. She's a lawyer who works with Hate Speech Beda, or Campaign Against Hate Speech. That's the other name. So Manvi has had a leg injury, so she can't go to office, nor can she come to our office. So we have come to her house. Tell us, how did this idea come that a group of citizens have to come together to combat hate speech?
So this idea actually came to be in 2020. Late 2019, early 2020, because of the kind of coverage we were seeing of our own comrades and protesters and dissenters around the CA issue. We didn't quite know what is it that we can, legally do to respond to it. And so the idea started with, okay, the media is delegitimizing entire sets of people, especially protesters who are raising their voice against the government and the government decision to bring in the CAA. So what is it that we can do now? And so then began the effort to start looking at tracking the media, trying to see, okay, are there some patterns? Are there some commonalities? They're different channels. Why are they all talking the same way?
While there are many lawyers like Manvi in the group, Hate Speech Beda also has other professionals. Kishore is a scientist at a leading hospital in Bengaluru, and he has been chronicling hate speech. So when did you become a part of Hate Speech Beda, and why did you become a part of Hate Speech Beda?
Around 2019, after the national elections, many friends that I had were noticing that there was a huge rise in the amount of hate speech that was happening, specifically against Muslims. In early 2020, we're meeting with a lot of different people who were either trying to handle cases relating to that, asking whether or not it makes sense for us to start maybe a campaign that specifically looks at the issue of hate speech.
The first complaint the group filed was in April 2020 against Kannada newspaper Vijay Karnataka. I'm actually reading the article again now. It had so many hateful sentences. Hindus and Christians have respected the curfew and stopped visiting temples and churches. However, members of the mentioned community are still offering namaz by gathering in large numbers. The editor thought that perhaps they're doing the community a favor by not mentioning but by saying namaz. In March 2021, the Press Council of India issued a bailable warrant against the editor of Vijay Karnataka for not appearing for the proceedings. That's how lightly the media takes these complaints. But Hate Speech Beda would not back down. The next complaint they filed was in April 2020 against the Star of Mysore for an article called Bad Apples in the Basket, again targeting Muslims. This article said about Muslims, one hopes one can get rid of the bad apples in society, which are proving to be more harmful than the dreaded virus itself. 2 years later, Star of Mysore was censured for 3 months by the Press Council of India, which meant that the government could not advertise on this newspaper for 3 months. The pandemic saw unprecedented levels of hate speech in the media, especially against Muslims.
Pandemics are usually times when you do see a heighten of conspiracy theories, especially against groups that are unfamiliar. So this has been documented historically, where it was like in the West you have like anti-immigrant hate speech. In the US there was like a lot of anti-Chinese hate speech. In India it was like a lot of it was targeted against Muslims.
The campaigners have filed 50 complaints till now. The first 3 orders were secured against Times Now, Suvarna News and News 18 Kannada.
What is important to note about these orders is that people often say that what's the value of an NBDSA order? You know, they said something and they had an apology, nobody saw it, it was 30 seconds. What's invaluable about these orders is that in all 3 of these orders, they have recognized aspects of the fact that speech that was made by media channels can incite genocide, can lead to genocide, this kind of speech. Recognition was made to the fact of that hate speech is dehumanization of entire sets of people, of communities altogether, and this dehumanization can lead to exclusion and second-class citizenship. And the fact that the impact that it has on especially the Muslim people by way of such speech. Because this is exactly what happened with, say for example, Radio Rwanda, right? When you look at the case of Rwanda, when the Hutus were Hutus undertook a genocide against the Tutsi people over there, they used this thing called, they used the radio, and the person who was the writer of the songs, he was held liable and criminally liable by the International Court of Justice for genocide and for incitement to genocide, and on many accounts like that.
In September 2022, the BJP government in Karnataka passed a stringent anti-conversion law that also looked at restricting interfaith marriages. But this was preceded by a vicious media campaign.
Before that, for 9 months, you had 2 channels, Digvijaya and Asia Suvarnanet, who were basically doing programs after programs, trying to set the narrative for how there were forced conversions happening throughout the state.
And there was one BJP MLA who made that speech in the assembly.
Yes, Gulihatti Shekhar,
yes.
who alleged that his mother himself was forcefully converted, and that his district, Hosadurga, had seen 16,000 people that were converted, and he had made that submission in a subcommittee.
But the mother later came and said that is not true.
The mother from get-go, in fact, said that that was not true. And what you saw the media, in fact, do was take his statement, the MLA's statement, say that even the MLA's mother can be converted, and show visuals one after the other of people just like in a room like this, sitting together on plastic chairs and praying, people being handed over prasad with all kinds of titles and headlines of conversion as terrorism. We saw all of this coverage, and we saw how after 9 months of it, it reflected in the legislative agenda of the government to say that we're bringing in the ordinance because there's a menace of forced mass conversion.
According to Campaign Against Hate Speech, the media does 2 things: mirror the hate in society and set new narratives of hate.
And over the last 4 years itself, in the time that we have tracked it, and people who have seen this for longer can speak more to the patterns, we have seen how the shift has happened in a way that now slowly shifts like they're speaking only to a Hindu audience have started. Like in the kind of coverage that Digvijaya was doing about conversions, you could see that they were saying you should be afraid when they make their programs. The anchors were repeatedly saying that. The anchors were in fact saying that this is the law you can use in case they come to your house to take criminal action against them. So it was not even stopping it saying that you should be afraid and this is the kind of impact it will have on you, but to the extent of saying that this is what you should be doing to go after taking criminal action for them. So you're seeing it shift and take the role of speaking to a Hindu audience, to becoming a mob, to behaving like a mob, to setting legislative agenda and breeding ground for popular narratives of Hindutva to gain legitimacy. You're seeing the media play all of these roles.
There are many initiatives globally and in India that keep track of hate speech, like the Hindutva Watch, the Free Speech Collective, Police Project, and the Ethical Journalism Network. The campaign called Stop Funding Hate focuses on making hate unprofitable by asking advertisers to pull their support. So if you are wondering what can I do against hate speech on the media, it's not really that difficult. In fact, Manvi will explain to us in what different ways can people react to hate speech. Yeah, Manvi?
Yeah. So step one is to just identify what hate speech is. So when you see any kind of assault on dignity or equality, or you're seeing that a particular group is being targeted, or they're not being able to participate in democracy. So what can you do if you see now elections are going to come? So if you see that candidates specifically or their agents that are being empowered by candidates are basically doing hate speeches during their campaigns, what you can do is you can email for us it was the Karnataka State Election Commission, but now the Election Commission will also give a new email ID for the Lok Sabha elections. Similarly, if you see it on TV, you can first write to the editor, like Dhanya is the editor of TNM. Each channel has an editor. Their details are given on their website. So you go to the website, find the editor, email it to them, wait for 7 days. If they don't respond, then you send a complaint to one of these two, which is the News Broadcasting Digital Standards Authority or the News Broadcasters Federation. Social media and candidates as well. If you see any kind of hate speeches where they're inciting especially violence, in those cases, you can go to your local police stations, file complaints, and pressurize the police also to do simple things like just give us an acknowledgement. They may not want to file a FIR right away, but when they are forced to give an acknowledgement, you can later on explore different legal routes, such as the police complaint route, where you ask the magistrate to ensure registration of FIR.
So that's something which people may not want to do, but at least the other options are very much available to them, which is writing to the Election Commission, to the Broadcast Federation, and to the Press Council of India.
Yeah, so even if people don't want to go to the police themselves, they can always ask, or they can always even share whatever are the hate speeches that they've come across with us, and we are happy to do that for them, and we are happy to do that with them also if they want to know, okay, it's very daunting sometimes to go to the police station for the first time alone, so can 3 people go together? So very basic things like that also we're very happy to do.
Yeah, hate speech is that one thing where I feel everybody has an opinion or an understanding of, but nobody knows how to do anything about it. So if you say that hate speech is a problem, it's a growing problem, I think most people would agree with that. But doing something about it is a very, it's a huge step away. You lose that righteousness when you start doing something about it, because then you have to talk with people, you have to understand what they're going through, you have to understand what their objections are. It's hard to see like the effect of a lot of it. So if you get involved in it, you lose that sense of righteousness. You don't really feel that you wonder whether what you're doing is really important. But at the same time, these are very important things to do. Like nothing changes if everyone is quiet. So I think it always becomes like a small number of people actually go out of their way and try to raise awareness, try to do things about it, try to get involved in campaigns such as this.
But why we still continue to do this is for 3 primary reasons. One, in India, unless we start articulating this question of a fundamental right to news and right to information for people and attempting to hold these channels accountable, we will never arrive at a language where we're able to even imagine what it would mean like that media can be for the people. Right now, the advertising patterns are not changing, their income is not changing. Yes, they're all booming in that sense. But unless we engage with the question of what are they saying and why is it that people are continuing to watch them, we will not be able to think of either responding to them or seeing how they're harming people's lives in a very direct way, right? So that's the second part of the answer. And the third part is that for us to truly internalize that, the news that we are seeing, even if we don't get fantastic orders, even if the channels don't change, each of the coverage has far-reaching consequences for individuals' fundamental rights and individual lives. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean just some abstract notion of my right to life or my abstract notion of my right to livelihood. It means that during COVID, when they were saying that Muslims are spitting on vegetables, you could see on the ground that the resident welfare associations were refusing to let Muslim vendors into their colonies and their gated apartments because they were saying that, they were spitting and they were believing that narrative. So it's not some abstract, and these are not some unknown people whose rights are being so
There are
debilitated.
real life consequences for these things.
For
yeah.
these consequences for these things.